Zoning public hearing. Can you hear me? Okay, let me see. Thank you. Let me start over. Good evening and welcome to the Spalding County Board of Commissioners January 22nd zoning public hearing. I would ask that you please silence your all electronic devices so that they won't bother other people. At this time, I'd like to ask for an amendment to the agenda to replace the invocation and to replace the pledge of the flag.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All right. I'd like to have at this. Thank you. I'd like to have Reginald Watts give the invocation and Ryan Bolden to do the pledge of the flag.
Okay. Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, Lord, we just want to thank you, God. Lord, we want to thank you for who you are, and Lord, just the love that you give us. And Lord, right now we just ask that you protect our citizens in this bad weather. Lord, just be with this community during this snowstorm. And Lord, we also just want to say, give us the knowledge, Lord. Give us the understanding to make great decisions for your people, Lord. And Lord, just give us understanding, Lord. We pray for understanding. It is in the powerful name of Jesus, your people have prayed. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Please join me in pledge allegiance to our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. So everybody is aware, Commissioner Flowers Taylor is under the weather and will not be joining us tonight. And Commissioner James Dutton is joining us by phone from Nevada.
I promise I'm here on a work trip.
Yeah, okay. Secondarily, I know that this meeting could possibly get a little heated. I really see this as a family and friends meeting. This is an opportunity for us to voice and hear different opinions and to be able to move through that without it turning into a heated debate. This is a respectful place, I hope, and that we can monitor that. It doesn't mean someone is right or someone is wrong. Just different people have different visions, and we'll take it from there. All right. Let's see, make sure I've got all that. If you haven't been with us before, I would suggest that you get to some place that you can see the big screen. All right. Item number 4, new business, public hearing.
Yes, sir. Item number 1 under public hearing, application 2605V, Wallace Jackson LLC owner, 5745 and 5841 Jackson Road, parcels 216-01004 and 216-01004A, both located in land lots 25 and 40 of the Second Land District, consisting of approximately 139.63 and 50.03 acres respectively. The application is seeking a variance against the exclusion of data centers from S2 Sensitive Land Watershed Protection Districts and S4 Sensitive Land Wetlands Protection Districts found in Articles 21 and 21B respectively, per the requirements of Section 1403A-B8B.
Do I have a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. We're now in public. Thank you. We're now in public hearing. Do we have somebody who's signed up to speak in this regard?
Yes, sir, we do. So for my understanding, Mr. Newton, if you would please explain how we're going to do both sides, the 20 for and the 20 against, if you don't mind, if you'll share the rules.
Well, the way we conduct a public hearing is people who are here to speak in favor are allowed 20 minutes. The applicant, if they don't use the full 20 minutes, are able to reserve time for rebuttal to the extent they make up the full 20 minutes. And then the opponents, or people who are here to speak against, are also given 20 minutes cumulatively. And I would recommend, because of the nature of the three related applications, that Mr. Allen be given the opportunity to introduce them before you start calling people to speak from the public.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right. Director Allen?
Yeah, good evening. Echoing what Dr. Ledbetter said about the location and the use, this particular item here for the public hearing, the variance, concerns the fact that the development is located in an S2 watershed, more specifically the Butts County Toalaga watershed. It also has some pockets of wetlands, so that is the S4 reference in this variance hearing. I'll go into more detail after the hearing about what all this means. So.
Okay, I want to make sure that we have 20 minutes on each side. If you're the last person on the line, you may not get to speak, unfortunately. My request is if you're speaking before them and somebody has already covered the points that you're interested in saying, please just skip those points, and just if they covered 5 points and you want to cover 6, please just cover the 1 so that everybody has their opportunity to be able to speak tonight. All right? Dr. Ledbetter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Galloway, would you prefer that we start with the applicant and then for the rebuttal, or how would you suggest that we move
Let
forward?
the applicant present their direct case first. then
Thank you,
the opponents.
Mr. Newton. At this time, I would call for Mr. Stephen Jones. If you would, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Chairman, Commissioners,
Welcome back.
thank you, sir. My name is Stephen Jones with the law firm of McKagan and Jones. My address is 1441 Dunwoody Village Parkway, Suite 100, Atlanta, Georgia, 30338.
Can everybody hear him?
How about now? I'll lean into it.
Okay. Thank you.
Chairman, Commissioners, you have before you 3 requests. You're going to hear them in the order that is shown on the screen. Right now, you have before you the public hearing on the variance application styled as 2605V. That is related to the rezoning and the special exception, which are later on your agenda. As Mr. Allen said, for the purpose of this public hearing, because of the way we've got the public hearing set up on this agenda, I'm going to kind of give you an overview of all the applications, but then talk specifically about the variance. And then on the next applications, in the interest of time, I'll just incorporate some of those comments. Here you have before you, this is again the variance application, but there are again a rezoning and a special exception that are accompany it. You'll see here in purple 198.64 acres, which fronts on Wallace Road and Jackson Road, just to the west of I-75. It's presently zoned C2. The variance request, which is what this public hearing is, we'll discuss in a second, but the rezoning request is the request to downzone that to the C1C zoning district. C2, Chairman and Commissioners, as you know, is your most intense industrial district. It provides for a litany of industrial uses. Basically, any industrial use that anybody could ever want to do in the county is permissible in C2 and by incorporation, this property as a matter of right today. C1C is a lesser intense, hence the name manufacturing light, industrial district. That's why we call it a down zone. This is an aerial from Google Earth. You can see the subject property highlighted in yellow. You can see its adjacency to I-75 as well as other industrial developments in the area. Directly to the east, you'll see a site that's presently under land disturbance, also zoned C1C. Further to the east of that, you will see the Dollar General site, which is, I guess, about 10 years old now, partially in Spalding, partially in Butts. To the south of 16, you will see the Hillwood development, as well as a couple other industrial buildings. And then, of course, across 75 is the River Park Industrial Park. You do have in this variance application, you have 2 variances before you. Your data center ordinance says that data centers shall not be located in, among other places, the S2 sensitive land district or the S4. And one of those is the wetlands district, which relates to the map which you're adopting tonight, or might adopt tonight, and wetlands generally. So when we look at the River Park development, on that map over there, sitting on the below the television screen, that orange area is the watershed at issue here, and you will see that the River Park development is substantially in that, as well as the Dollar General development and other industrial sites. The point I raise that is all of those comply with state watershed laws and state watershed ordinances. The variance request before you tonight is not to deviate from state law or your local ordinance with respect to the buffers that apply to watersheds and state waters within watersheds. The variance request before you is only to permit a data center in those districts. So that's why I think it's, and we come in here and zoom in, that's why I think it's relevant to talk about what could be done on this site as a matter of right. Now, these uses would still have to comply, just like the proposed data center, with the watershed stream buffers. But you could have a variety of things, such as an acid manufacturing plant, a foundry, automotive repair, a textile manufacturing plant. Again, it's your most intense zoning district. As a matter of right, you could have on this property a uranium refining factory. This is the most intense zoning district you have. So then I want to talk about the comp plan. Why is this property already zoned C2? Well, for decades, the Spalding County Comprehensive Plan has denoted certain areas in the county, mainly along 16 between the interstate and the city of Griffin, as well as the Jenkinsburg area north of 16, as an employment corridor or within the employment character area. And that calls for master planned industrial developments, among other things, such as this. So previously, this board, a number of years ago, rezoned, actually I want to say about 19 years ago, rezoned this property to C2. It has not developed since, although again could be developed under C2. Now we're requesting you to downzone it. And of course, your comp plan calls for those industrial zoning districts as being appropriate in the employment character area. So now it brings me to the site plan for this proposed use. I'll talk first about the context of the variances, because that is what's before you in this public hearing, but then I'll also touch on the other stuff just for cohesion and simplicity. So you will see the dark gray line you see at the top of your screen. That is a stream. There are streams on most developable properties that haven't been developed yet, as in the county. What happens there? Well, state law and your watershed ordinance prescribe specific buffers and setbacks, undisturbed setback, and then an impervious buffer beyond that have to be complied with to protect those streams. The concept plan you see on your screen does just that. It complies with the buffers and setbacks set out in your ordinance and under state law. The only request before you is just to permit this use, because again, your data center ordinance says no data centers in this district. But what your ordinance doesn't say, and your ordinance does allow, is things like a foundry or an acid manufacturing plant in those districts. So all we're asking is you permit a use which is less intense than those C2 uses on this property, and that variance will allow you to do that. With respect to the wetlands, you can see down at the bottom left of your screen, there are a few pockets of wetlands on this property. That's not uncommon when you are close to streams. And as we all know, being in Georgia, there are streams everywhere. So as written, if you had a 200-acre parcel or a 1,000-acre parcel, if there was 2 square feet of wetlands, you couldn't do a data center development on it. If there was just a portion in a watershed, you can't do a data center on it. But you can do anything else under your industrial zoning districts, assuming the property is appropriately zoned, such as this one. What you have here, and I'll scroll through, is you have 10 buildings. They range in size from 297,000 square feet to 790,000 square feet. We have made 2 updates to the concept plan since the one you've seen in your packet. They're relatively simple. They are designed to comply with staff's recommended conditions, or the conditions that came out of the Planning Commission, and that is to incorporate a 4-foot buffer with a fence on top along all road frontages, which has been a historical requirement that this board has imposed on prior data center zonings. And then secondly, consistent with this board's direction on prior data center zonings, we have also incorporated emergency entrances. You can see those on your screen, those orange lines. So those would be controlled access Knox box only, Knox box being a proprietary device that only first responders can get through. The primary entrances would be located where those those blue circles are, near the intersection of Wallace and Jackson Road. I know there may be in public comment some comments about water usage. Your data center ordinance, and I know you know what your data center ordinance says, but I've got a point I'm getting to. Your data center ordinance requires a closed loop system. Plain and simple, that's the law. So what we've done here is gone to and gotten an availability letter from the Spalding County Water Authority for a water usage commensurate with a closed loop system. And you'll see that at the top for 30,000 gallons per day, and then sewer capacity for 12,000 gallons per day, a lesser amount. And that's commensurate generally with the water usage and the sewer flow that was associated with prior data centers that this board has approved either and or a rezoning or special exception for. When we talk about data centers, there's always some fear, right, and some unknowns. But this board has taken great steps to adopt an ordinance which, on the operation of the data centers, imposes the requirements that alleviate those concerns, such as closed loop water systems, buffering, as well as noise constraints. When we look at after build out, the data centers generate no impact to schools. In other words, they don't add to the school population inherently. They might through employees coming in. They do provide high-paying jobs. You have a lot of tech operators in these data center facilities. Most of the operators require that those employees live within close proximity to the facility. So they will generally, some or most, be Spalding County residents because they have to be close to the facility. They have relatively low traffic impact as compared to other industrial style uses because you're not trucking up materials or goods or distribution items in or out. And then the other benefit, of course, is ad valorem tax. And the way, as the board knows, the county taxes based on dirt, and based on buildings, but then most importantly, with respect to this use, based on personal property. And when you combine all that, of course, a big warehouse full of computers is going to have a very large value because computers and computer processing equipment are expensive. When we look at the value at build out, the projected figure is approximately $3.65 billion. When you plug that into the current millage rate, which there have been some adjustments to, but using the new millage rate, that is at full build out an ad valorem of $51.6 million per year, which commensurate when you add that to the county's present general fund is an increase of 83.64% at full build out. So with that, I want to move next into the staff's recommended conditions. We've discussed these conditions with Mr. Allen. Most of them we're good with and we like. I do have one requested revision in your packet. You have two recommended conditions with respect to this variance. One states that all buffers and impervious setbacks of the S2 district shall be complied with. That goes back to my point. We're not asking to get closer to waters. We're asking to comply with the buffer and setback regulations under state law and under your ordinance. It goes on to then define a perennial stream based on the code. That, if that is what the code defines it as, well, that's just a restatement of law. And generally, my position is I don't usually like to consent to conditions that restate what an ordinance says, because if the ordinance changes, then our conditions don't match what the ordinance says. So that's our requested revision there. And then, of course, with respect to the S4, which is condition 2 of your staff recommendation, that the wetlands shall be field located and protected prior to grading, and that any disturbance that is required shall be based on any approvals from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers as necessary. Again, that is a follow all laws that any other industrial use is going to have to follow if it develops on a property as presently zoned. So in a nutshell, the variance request before you is associated with, of course, the rezoning and the special exception, but it is only a request to permit data centers in these sensitive land districts. Other land uses, and principally every land use in the C2 manufacturing district, your most intense zoning district in the county, could go there tomorrow and would not be prohibited from being located there like data centers are in your data center ordinance. Now, I know Mr. Allen maybe has some plans to revise the code and maybe accept out some of those more intense uses. But when we look at what those uses are that are presently there and can presently done today as a matter of right, a data center is a much less intense use, and therefore we think there's sufficient justification to approve the variance because of those dissimilarities in low intense use versus the high intensity uses that can be done as a matter of right. Chairman, Commissioners, that's my presentation for the variance request. I'll have a few more things to say on the rezoning and the special exception, but if I may, Chairman, I'll reserve the remainder of my time to address anything that may come up later in public comment.
Okay, thank you.
All right, there's 5 minutes and 40 seconds left for the 20 minutes. Mr. Greg Burns, if you would step forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Is he on the floor side?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Okay.
My name is Greg Burns, and I'm a resident of Spalding County at 5451 West McIntosh Road. As an aggrieved party to this application for variance, I will suffer harm if approved. Furthermore, if the commission approves this application, you will be violating the county's own ordinances and procedures. You should already be in receipt of my written comments and constitutional objection. In addition to myself, you will hear from other citizens and advocates for the responsible stewardship of our natural resources, and we will focus on the following criteria for which the applicant fails to meet the requirements for variance. 1, lack of precedents and procedural errors by the Planning Commission. 2, circumstances created by the applicant. And 3, and perhaps most importantly, detriment to the public health. You will hear about water usage in excess of what the county can support, discharge of hazardous waste, creation of hazardous road conditions, contamination of residential wells, and release of radioactive elements in the aquifer, and impact on property values. Keep in mind, the burden of proof is on Mr. Jones to show that there is no threat to the public health, safety, and welfare, and I contend that he has failed to meet that requirement. So let me say something about the precedents and the procedural errors. This is the first application for a variance to the ordinance, and for reasons that you will hear, it should be denied. If the variance is granted, then the precedent will be established that would allow future applicants to site a data center almost anywhere in the county because the entire county is in the sensitive land district. The ordinance is unambiguous. Sections 1403B8 state data centers shall not be located within S2, S3, S4 sensitive land protection districts. This is the plain text of the law. There is no ambiguity and no basis for discussing intent. The Planning Commission erred in asking Mr. Allen about the intent of the ordinance, and so you must disregard their recommendation as well. You must rely solely on the criterions for variance as written in Article 4, Section 411. Others will call your attention to Sections 21OB, prohibiting hazardous materials, and 2109, detriment to water quality. The circumstances created by the applicant. The 2 parcels were purchased on April 16, 24. Drafts of the data center ordinance were already in circulation as early as February of that year. Mr. Jones claims there are no other possible uses of the property, ignoring the obvious that there are neighboring parcels with other commercial uses. Regardless, there was no data center in effect at the time the property was purchased, and so the applicant could not have reasonably expected to put one in. He failed due diligence and created his own circumstances. You'll hear in a bit about the detriment to public health. And I will again say this, the applicant states without evidence that a data center campus poses no threat. This downgrading from C2 to C1 is irrelevant. His argument is based on false equivalencies, namely what might be allowed under the existing zoning. Hypotheticals are irrelevant. Previous data center applications have included detailed information regarding water, traffic analyses, and none of those are here. It is unacceptable to simply state that a data center poses no threat. Mr. Jones is not an expert, but you are about to hear from people who are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Fletcher Sams?
Hey, y'all. My name is Fletcher Sams. I'm the Executive Director of Altamaha Riverkeeper, 127 F Street, Brunswick, Georgia. We're concerned that the application in front of the board tonight is asking to ignore important drinking water protections that safeguard residents and the environment. The proposed data center will be less than 7 miles above the Talladega drinking water intake for Butts County. That area is protected by your ordinance and the S2 overlay, but from pollutants of concern. And additionally, the body approved legislation 2 months ago in the new data center ordinance, section 1403A-B, stating that data centers shall not be located within any S2, S3, and S4 districts. I plan to talk more about the specifics of those protections, but those are drinking water protections that we're talking about. And despite that Spalding County has zoned this as industrial, heavy industrial, does not mean that the state EPD would allow all those scary developments to go onto that parcel. There are state rules, there are county rules, and there are federal rules that protect drinking water intakes within that radius. And it's y'all as a county have gone above and beyond and codified RCRA protections into the S2 district. That's how you were able to include those into your code. Those are there for a reason. You explicitly prohibit them from coming in to any S2 district for good reasons. Also, on the water availability, I'm also concerned that the availability was showing 30,000 gallons per minute, and we're talking about a closed loop cooling system. Most data centers are closed loop. It's how you take the heat out of the loop. And what was applied for in the DRI was 500,000 gallons a day with a 30,000 gallon return to surface water. That's evaporative cooling. That's not what y'all intended to have as closed loop cooling systems in the ordinance. And that's why there's such a big draw. Also, the applicant on the S4 district overlay, if you'll look at that packet that I gave to you, there's on the second page, a diagram of one of the buildings directly on top of an S4 district as described in section 2103B-C, which is the current U.S. Fish and Wildlife Natural Wetlands Inventory maps. And that's that green space under that kind of diagonal building on the south side. So the two major points that y'all have in your ordinance to protect water quality and drinking water are the S2 and S4 prohibition that y'all have included in that ordinance. If y'all are going to go ahead and approve this and give them the variance from those important protections, we would ask that you add the following items as conditions. Number one, disclosure of all pollutants of concern in any conditional use permit if the board moves forward. Number two, all storage areas for diesel, hazardous and toxic waste, or toxic released inventory regulated substances be delineated on any future site plans. And number three, all pollutants of concern be required to have secondary containment structures with 110% of the capacity. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Sams.
Mr. Gordon Rogers?
Thank you, sir, and thank you, honored commissioners, for having this public hearing on this important topic. My name's Gordon Rogers. I'm the river keeper for the Flint. We're based in Albany, Georgia. I live in Taylor County, Georgia. This proposed development is not in the Flint watershed, which begs the question of why I'm even making a comment here, and I hope that my comments will be useful. From 1975 approximately until the drought of 2016, the Upper Flint experienced a 50 to 70% decrease in drought flows depending on which statistic you use, whether you use a 7-day statistic or 1 day, what have you. I don't care what statistic you use, the drought flows over that period of time decreased remarkably. It's due to a variety of causes, some of them natural. The rainfall climate has changed, but the explosion of metro Atlanta, including the exurbs all the way into Pike and Spalding County, are part of that reason too. Water usage, impervious surfaces, impoundments, etc. Since 2009, Flint Riverkeeper has been working on correcting that problem, turning that battleship around, if you will, which is a long, slow process. It involves using less water, yes, but it also involves putting water back to where it came from. Part of the problem is that as water was withdrawn from the Flint, it is discharged onto the Ocmulgee side and to the Chattahoochee side, and that was by design. And over time, as bond debt has been retired and infrastructure repairs and new infrastructure opportunities have presented themselves, increasingly we're putting water back into the Flint that for decades was going elsewhere. That is happening in Spalding County, working with the city of Griffin, and that's happening in Clayton County. Fayette County is also working with us on that. These are important pieces of progress. My education on who has the permits and how all the pipes run was extensive during this over a decade of work on this. My understanding and my recent review within the last 48 hours indicates that Spalding County does not have withdrawal permits to speak of. Spalding County gets its water from the city of Griffin. City of Griffin has the withdrawal permits. Therefore, any water you get, you have to do contractually, and I'm sure that changes from time to time with the city of Griffin. They're a regional water supplier to as far away as Cayeta County. So I'm going to remind you of the education you got when you were first elected as county commissioners through ACCG and the couple of days maybe that you spent in Athens, and you're considering development, rezoning, what you allow in your community, what you promote in your community. And 3 things, more than 3 things are important, but 3 things are very important when you're going to allow something to happen in your community. It needs to bring jobs. It needs to increase your ad valorem tax base, and it needs to be sensitive to how your natural resources are conserved. And by that, I mean not for God's critters and plants necessarily, but conserved for the future development of the county also. In other words, don't put all your eggs in one basket because you have a limited amount of water. And I urge you to strongly consider what a data center consumes in terms of water. It consumes a lot. Don't just look at that shiny object of ad valorem taxes and a vast increase in your budget. You need to look whether or not that kind of thing and the jobs that it brings are worth that water burn. Because when the time comes for the city of Griffin or anybody else in the Upper Flint to want to expand their permits, a lot of people are going to be standing in line with Flint Riverkeeper at the head of the line, objecting to any more permits for any more water coming out of the Flint River. That's going to be a huge legal battle if that ever happens because of the condition of the Flint. So that's not a threat of a lawsuit against y'all or anybody else. I'm simply saying that you have a limited amount of water to deal with. Be careful with how you deal with it, particularly since this water is not going to be returned to the Flint. It's going to wind up going down the Talaga and not to the Gulf of Mexico, but to the Atlantic Ocean. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
How many? 8 minutes flat. 8 minutes. Amanda Gilbert.
Can you go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint for him? The one that Samuel sent you. Amanda Gilbert, 1121 Amelia Road.
This application that you have before you is not a choice of this or that. Would I rather have this or that? This is probably one of the most important decisions that you're going to have regarding our county ordinances. You're given a chance today to uphold our ordinance and not to weaken it. And you have every legal right to vote no to the variance or rezoning because our ordinance is clearly defined. And as we've been told over and over, it's the strongest ordinance, but if you allow this variance, you'll have weakened it. I want to talk a little about our comprehensive plan and the employment corridor. The comprehensive plan is your contract basically with your citizens. And it says that Spalding County's goal is to be a place to live, work, and play. And that county leadership must proactively protect the quality of life prized by residents. All of the residents, no matter where they live or what section of the map that they live in. This contract with the residents says the employment corridor was intended for sustainably developed industrial and office uses, which defined means creating goods and services in ways that balance economic growth with environmental protection and social equality, ensuring resources aren't depleted for future generations, our kids, our grandkids, and your kids and grandkids. Employment is mentioned 31 times in the plan. On page 65, technology uses are clearly placed in the airport area, not here. The plan's economic goals are to promote jobs for Spalding County residents, support local entrepreneurs, and build a workforce from within the county. Data centers do not meet those goals. They provide very few permanent jobs. They rely largely on out-of-county workers, and they consume enormous amounts of water, power, and infrastructures. Even if they're made to live nearby, this is on the county border, right next to 75, so they can basically live wherever they want and get here really quick. Employees may be required to live nearby, and let's skip that. Legally, you have every right to say no. Our quality of life is important, and it can't be bought with just tax money, just the few hundreds or thousands. Legally, our ordinance is clear. Data centers are not allowed in S2 or S3 water sensitive areas. Our county just promoted that ordinance stipulation on the 6th of January in the ACCG webinar when it was said that we do not allow data centers in water sensitive areas. Granting this variance weakens the ordinance and sets a precedent that opens much of the county to similar requests. Tonight's decision isn't just about one project, it's about whether our comprehensive plan means what it says, whether our ordinances mean what they say, and whether quality of life still matters in Spalding County for every single citizen, no matter what district and no matter what area of the map you live under. I urge you to uphold the plan and protect our resources and to say no.
Thank you, Amanda.
Time? 5:14 left, or 5 minutes and 14 seconds left. Mike Wallace. Mr. Wallace, if you'll state your name and your address for the record, please.
Mike Wallace, 371 Wallace Road.
Thank you.
I am requesting Pace Analytical to do monthly testing on the 3 wells that I have, my brother and I, specifically for radium, uranium, and radon, all of which are radioactive isotopes. And to be sent the results report, doing this monthly. The developer should pay for these tests. And I would invite everybody locally to do the same. Context, when Dollar General was blasting, it closed off my mother's well at 235 Wallace Road. And I had to drill another well for the sake of that house and for livestock. And there will be blasting at this other one. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir.
Linda Smith.
My name is Linda Smith. I live at 600 Wallace Road, which is the property on the corner of Wallace and Jackson Road, directly across from this proposed site. And we have a family farm that has been in our family for 80 years that is directly across. two things. Number one is he said traffic would not impact the area. In 2014, there was attempt on the 50.3 acres to put a business in there, and the county denied the applicant an exclusion so that he could come in off of Jackson Road, and yet now, and from what the lawyer said, this is a 10-year plan. We're gonna have to put up with traffic of construction stuff like we now are putting up with at the Georgia Power site. And it will be a constant ongoing thing, and the newly paved Jackson Road now has holes in it, which are being marked by the county because of all the dump trucks and the concrete trucks coming by daily. This is not flat lands. This is down one hill and up another. You cannot see from one hill to the next. You cannot get out of your driveway safely without being extremely cautious. It will, in fact, impact the traffic. And secondly, the farm has 3 wells, so our wells would also need to be constantly monitored because we have had these wells for years. I hope y'all will consider what it's actually doing to our neighborhood and to our environment. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Samuel Weeks.
All right, I'm gonna cut some of these back. All right, my name is Samuel Weeks. I live at 100 Mimosa Road, Griffin, Georgia. The Spalding County Comp Plan states smart growth development standards and placemaking guidelines will improve its appeals and residents will enjoy higher property values. Up there displayed is a map showing the employment corridor in the Tawalaga residential area from the 24 comprehensive plan. I've depicted currently known and pending data centers and the large-scale utility construction which is located in the middle of the Tawalaga residential area. Research has shown that with good buffering and not being next door might increase your resale value in an area near data centers, but in Spalding County we have no buffering as 100 feet or less is ridiculous. No noise decibel limits defined. There are no legitimate requirement for vegetative buffers as mentioned in the 2042 comp plan, and these data centers are barely over 2 miles or less from one another. In the 2042 Spalding comp plan, the Wallace-Jackson data sits on the border of the Tawalaga residential area and the employment zone. The Tawalaga residential area lists compatible districts as R1, R1A, R2, R4, and R5. In the Code Appendix 4, Articles 7, 7A, 8, 10, 11, the very first section in each repeats the same purpose. Quote, zoning districts are intended to establish and preserve quiet, relatively low to medium density neighborhoods of single-family residents. These districts are free from other uses which are incompatible with single-family homes, unquote. I would argue that the 181 acres of utility development on 3 lots in the middle of an agricultural residential area, which is required because of all these data centers, is not compatible with single-family homes. So the county's allowing industrial-sized utility development in an area not designed for it. I would argue that research article after research article has shown that there is nothing quiet about data centers. The county is considering the 3rd loud data center and the 4th one's in the pipeline. Therefore, they are ignoring these districts' requirements and preserving quietness when all these border the designated residential and agricultural areas according to the comp plan. The utility construction and approved data centers are effectively affecting resale value in a negative way. Since this board started approving data centers, my house went on the market. My house properties borders Georgia Power's 181 acres. Even after dropping the value, I had no one contact me. Harvey, another Spalding resident, lives across from the 2nd approved data center and has only been contacted from one developer that was trying to get a deal on his property. There are 3 houses in a row for sale diagonally across from the Wallace-Jackson data center site, and they have been for sale for 6 months and they still have not been purchased. Regardless of what news article states, the reality is that no one in rural Spalding wants to live next to this type of development. It's ugly, loud, and not even attempted to be hidden with meaningful property line offset or vegetation.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you. Thank you to all. All right, where are we with,
Was there anyone else that was on the list that wanted to speak in favor of the data center? All right, Mr. Jones, you have 5 minutes and 41 seconds remaining.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Ledbetter. Mr. Chairman, I do want to address a couple things that came up in public comment. First and foremost, this board, this commission has required previously approved data centers to be screened and to install a berm and landscaping or fencing along its frontages so that it is screened from the roadway. That's actually not true for many other industrial developments. Of course, it is true along AKB, and of course, I applaud y'all for that leadership there. But your staff recommended conditions do just that. And if you look to the staff recommended conditions, I don't want to get too much into the rezoning, but the rezoning and special exception conditions do address screening. You heard some comments about this being agricultural land and preserving it, and that a data center could be detrimental to that land. But I think that's a bit of a misnomer because, again, this property is already zoned for heavy industrial use today. You could submit a land disturbance permit to construct any one of those things tomorrow. What we're asking is to take these permitted uses off the property and downzone it to a C1C, which is a lesser zoning district. But again, those are more rezoning and special exception style things. To talk about the variance applications, somebody said that there was going to be a building on top of a wetland. I don't believe that to be true. If you look at the concept plan, those areas are actually shown, if I can find it, on that concept plan. And at the bottom left, right there. And also, if we talk about the Butts County Tawalaga watershed, again, we are not asking to deviate from any stream buffers or setbacks, period. We're just asking to be treated like all other industrial development and be allowed to locate in the employment corridor. And this is a Butts County watershed. Look directly over I-75 to what's in Butts County in this watershed. Butts County thinks industrial development is okay in this watershed. So why is that? Because that industrial development, just like this one, is going to comply with the laws, rules, and regulations designed to provide for setbacks and buffers for streams, period. All we're asking for is for this industrial development to be treated like all others that are allowed in the S2 and S4 zoning district. Chairman, I don't want to belabor points that are more germane to the rezoning and special exceptions, so I won't address those at this time. I do want to just focus on the variance. For that reason, should you or any other commissioners have any questions of me or the applicant, I'd be happy to address those at this time. Otherwise, thank you for your consideration, and we'd ask that you adopt staff's recommendation for approval and the recommended conditions, only with the strike through of the language which is, according to staff's report, already part of the code. And so we just don't want to have conflicting law if you change that law sometime in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen. Anybody else?
Well, others have signed up, but we've run out of time.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to close public hearing?
Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
All right, we're now out of public hearing. At this time, Director?
Okay, so staff does recommend approval of the variance with the two noted conditions. On January 12th, the Planning Commission recommended approval by a 4-1 vote at their meeting for this. A couple of clarifications from what I heard in the citizen comments. It's not 30,000 gallons per minute, it's per day. So that is a clarification there. To put that in context, just some general numbers. Typical household does about 200 gallons per day on water in a residential subdivision. 50 lot subdivision, that's 10,000 gallons. So 150 lot subdivision, which we have quite a few of in this county and some a lot bigger, would be the equivalent of this data center in terms of the 30,000 gallons per day. Also, the setting a precedent with the variances. That is not how variances are designed. They're case by case basis. Just because you get a variance on a setback or house size or this even does not mean the next person coming along will. It's very much on a case by case, property by property basis. I just want to make that clear as well. This does not necessarily mean in the future that this is going to happen again if it's approved at all. So I just want to make that clear. I did bring this map tonight, if you'll allow me a minute, as the main author of the ordinance with the S2, S3, S4 requirements and prohibitions in there, I want to make something kind of clear with that. The intent of that.
Gonna have to have a mic.
Yes, I deal with intents, not just giving you all information.
Just,
Hey,
David,
hang on,
just,
we're gonna get you the mic.
just hang in here.
It's
Uh,
probably inside.
Since we're streaming and the minutes will be done, that we'd have to have a microphone for the people who are going to transcribe this into minutes.
So as I was saying, as the main author of this ordinance, why would I put in there, don't have an S2, S3, S4? The intent of that, and yes, I deal with intents. I don't just tell you all information for ordinance, I tell you the intent. You look at this map here, this is all of Spalding County. You have several basins here, all different colors on here. The one that the data center project that you're talking about now is in is at the very tip of 3 down here. Wallace Jackson Road is right here. Everything else in this basin is upstream of this center, would not be affected by it. These other areas, you know, will make up most of the rest of the county, except this southeastern part, which is coincidentally, where we have our employment corridor, our industrial corridor. So that was the intent to, by not allowing it in these other S2 basins or watersheds, was to group any data centers that are approved down this area down here. And that's exactly what we're doing. The first 2 that you approved were along 16 and roughly down here just east of the city. They were not involved with the watershed basins. This one happens to clip the orange one here, the Butts County Toalaga Watershed District. That's why we're hearing a variance on this, to go through proper procedure on this. I just want to make clear that it is right here in this very small corner of that, the very end of it. Yes, ma'am. Right here. Right where it says 7.3 roughly. Whoops. Right. The drinking water intake's right down here, yes. Going across I-75, many warehouses and lots of paving. So yes. But what is not affecting is everything upstream of it on Chihuly Road, all these other roads that are up here on this. So I just want to make that clear about the intent. Speaking of the S2 ordinance, the main requirement for, let me speak about the uses he was talking about for a second. When we revised the zoning code this year, a lot of those ones in C2 will also be excluded from S2 watersheds. They're not now, it's an old code, so that's why they're not in there right now. Let me get back to the S2 for a second. The main requirements of the S2 is a 100-foot undisturbed buffer, either side of a stream bank, and an additional 50-foot impervious setback on top of that for any perennial stream on the property. This concept plan already does those buffers and setbacks. So it's not excluding itself from the requirements of the buffers and setbacks that are on there. So this will make that clear as well. The S4 with the wetlands, our code does mention a wetland map, which is decades old. The most proper location of wetlands is to field locate them at the time of construction plans. And that's what will be done with this. If approved at the time of civil construction plans, the wetlands will be located. Those that conflict with buildings or paving or whatever will have to have a Section 404 Army Corps of Engineers permit. So that will be dealt with at the time of civil construction drawings. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Commissioners, you have questions for?
I don't have any.
For Dave. James, do you have questions for?
I don't have a question for Dave. I do have a question for Mr. Jones.
Okay, he's
I
stepping
don't know if
back
we're
up.
there yet, though.
He's stepping back up to the microphone. Just give him a second.
Yes,
Okay.
Commissioner?
So I've been taking notes of what everyone said, both you and those that spoke against, and I want to address a few things with you to make sure that we're doing the right thing here. One of the concerns was the amount of radiation contamination. Will anything at this facility, other than like, fire or smoke detectors that have the little tiny bit of irradiated thing, like other than that, is there anything that's going to be radioactive? Is there any radioactive metals or materials or that's a concern. I just want to, can you speak to that at all?
Certainly, Commissioner. This is the first time I've ever heard of a data center containing radioactive materials. It does not have, a nuclear reactor associated with it or any sort of other nuclear or radioactive components. But the corollary, Commissioner, is that under the present zoning, C2 would permit the handling of hazardous materials or radioactive materials on the site as presently zoned. That's why I think the downzoning here is appropriate, because the downzoning is an effectuation of environmental protection.
The other issue, the two river keepers, those are really our experts that I really want to listen to here. I want to make sure one brought up the idea of evaporation cooling as opposed to a closed loop. I hope that you and our developer understands that when we say closed loop, we mean recycling internally the water and nothing short of that. That this isn't going to be, oh yeah, they're closed loop with our evaporator. We expect this to not have those issues. In fact, we specifically crafted rules to prevent the issues that we've seen elsewhere, the gross overuse of water, so that it's, it was said earlier that the average house uses 2,000 gallons a day, and this is going to use 30,000 gallons a day, so that's as much as 15 houses. Is that, are we on the same page here? Did we misunderstand, or am I correct in that back of the napkin math here?
Commissioner, it was I think 200 and the equivalent of 150 homes, but you are correct that the applicant fully understands that the law in Spalding County is closed loop system, full stop. And that is the intent.
I just really want to make it clear that we will pull their certificate of occupancy if all of a sudden they go, oh shucks, we have to use 1 million gallons a day. Well, then you don't get to operate. We want to understand, be on the same page and up front, so there's no surprise later.
Absolutely, Commissioner. Any violation of your ordinance allows you to enforce that in accordance with the enforcement provisions under your code of ordinances and state law.
All right, there was another one brought up by, I'm sorry, I just wrote down Riverkeeper, so I'm not sure which one, that any sort of hazardous materials, including like the diesel for the backup generator that they have to test once a month. I actually liked the idea of making sure that anywhere that's stored is further away from the actual protected areas that are gonna stay in force here, so that again this stream that's going to stay protected, that's all the EPD stuff. Again, I'm just one vote, but this is certainly my intention is that these streams stay 100% protected. That and making sure that the hazardous materials or any other kind of pollutants, like diesel fuel, are stored, on the actual plat as far away from that as possible. So I think he recommended a specific number of feet, setback for any kind of storage, and that those be required to be marked on the plat plan when it comes back before approval. I think that's a very fair addition as well.
Commissioner, I can tell you that the concept plan before you complies with all of the state and EPD and your local setbacks and buffers with respects to perennial as well as intermittent streams to ensure that any adverse material or construction stays outside of the stream. If you would like areas for storage of fuel to be shown on our construction plans, that's probably something that we can accomplish.
Again, that's not something that comes tonight. You guys have to come back with the actual end thing, you know, like the plat. So I would like those marked at that point to make sure that we're in compliance with those state regulations. But again, the state regulations aren't necessarily for the county to enforce. That's something that state enforces and the EPD. Our regulations are backing that up. But one thing that's a hard line in the sand for me is protecting, those streams. I know that the ordinance had sort of a blank, provision as far as, none whatsoever. But the intent here is to protect those streams. And so we want to make sure that those streams are as protected as they can be. And I don't want the developer to come back later and be surprised when we say, no, you got to change your plat plan, or you got to, move this building or that because it's too close to the stream or whatever. So I want to be on the same page now that, our highest priority is these streams. Again, you're right in saying, C2, the heavy industrial, they could come and build all this kind of stuff. And we appreciate you guys wanting to come and further restrict the use of this land, which right now could be used without any restrictions that I hope to put in place tonight. But I really, everybody's all smiles now when we're coming for this. But when we add these restrictions to this land, I want it to be very clear that we mean it. All right. So I think we're on the same page. I just, maybe it's just the lawyer in me that I'm putting it on the record, but here we are. Here's the goal. We're protecting these, and no, seriously, we're going to take it for real.
Absolutely, Commissioner. And I think that speaks to the variance itself. The applicant has not requested to vary one or any of the requirements under your S2 or S4 ordinance, which already provide those stringent protections of environmental resources.
Okay, again, maybe it's just me going, for the record, Your Honor, we need to add this, make sure the court reporter got it. But, okay, I just wanted to be on the same page.
Okay, David, you understand the commissioner's issues to make sure
I
of all
do,
that?
yes. The closed loop, and we can even beyond closed loop in the ordinance, you can make it clear that means no withdrawal from water from the streams or any bodies of water.
Yes, and no wells. You don't get to. This is municipal water source.
Yeah, correct. So that.
Respectfully requested, but.
Sorry. Okay.
Also, I like the suggestions of Mr. Sams that he put forth, the three suggestions: the disclosure of all pollutants, the storage delineation, where it's going to go, and also the secondary coating or lining of certain storage areas. I don't have a problem with those.
Agreed.
All right. We heard. I thought we had a traffic study done.
Not for.
Specifically on the DRI traffic.
Chairman, Public Works in the DRI
Yes.
submitted a whole host of recommended conditions. And in your staff recommended conditions on the rezoning, there are similar conditions for traffic improvements along the frontage. And there is a condition regarding no data center traffic north on Wallace Road. Okay.
Yeah, there's only going to be emergency access there. That's what's the name of the system that they have to only
NOx.
Emergency vehicles, the NOx system. That's right.
To clarify, that is not just a fire entrance. However, they're not allowed to go beyond that is a thoroughfare along Wallace Road. They have to go into entrance, and then the entrance is fairly close to the intersection, so they don't go far on Wallace Road.
Okay,
Wait, so is it a Knox only entrance or isn't it? I'm confused.
It is not just a Knox only entrance on Wallace. There's a certain amount of buildings accessed by Jackson and a certain amount accessed by Wallace based on how the streams and various things cut across the property.
But Mr. Allen's condition with respect to the rezoning and special exception says, do not send data traffic north of the property.
I see.
Mr. Jones, would you be okay with that entrance being a right in, right out?
I can't consent to that, Mr. Allen, because that's going to be the only entrance, I believe, for that side of the development. Now, we do have the emergency access entrance to the north. The entrance that we have to the south is on the south side, I believe further south than the entrance for the C1C development that is directly across Wallace Road. If we could go, can we go back to the next thing? In other words, our primary entrance is going to be south of an already permitted industrial entrance. At least that's my recollection of those two site plans.
Yes.
So the site plan right now, the entrance is south of where the Dollar General's industrial entrance is?
No, Commissioner, not Dollar General. There's a C1C parcel to the east of this, on the east side of Wallace Road. That parcel is contiguous with Dollar General. That parcel is currently in the land disturbance phase. They're pushing dirt out there right now. The entrance for that parcel, as I understand it, is north. One of the driveways for that parcel is north of the driveway that will be used for this development.
Oh, so not the Dollar General entrance, but another River Park warehouse that's going in now is going to have an entrance to the north of the entrance of this one.
That's correct. It's not technically within the River Park development, but it is a C1C development.
The entrance, the Wallace Road entrance for this data center project is just to the north of the church.
Okay. But there's not an entrance on Jackson. There's just that entrance on Wallace, which is south of the
There is an
adjacent
entrance on
C1C.
There is an entrance on Jackson as well, which accesses the 5 buildings shown. The one on Wallace accesses 5 buildings.
So, Commissioner, we effectively have 2 pods of this development, each with 5 buildings, and each development has its own driveway, or each pod of the development has its own driveway. And each pod also has a Knox box emergency entrance. One pod's main entrance and emergency entrance are on Wallace. One pod's main entrance and emergency entrance are on Jackson. But both of the main entrances are very close to the intersection of Wallace and Jackson.
Okay. All right, that makes sense.
all right. James, any more comments for Stephen?
No, I don't have any more questions for Mr. Jones.
All right, Director, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Just speaking of the DRI that was completed, you have received it as well as certain members of the public. There was 2 entities that made comments. One, our own Spalding County Public Works Department, and then the Altamaha Riverkeeper, the advisory group. No other governments made any comments on this, on the DRI.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, any more?
So the DRI was completed and approved?
Yes, there was.
The DRI was completed. That is an advisory.
Newton, you got to get closer to that mic. I can't really hear you.
The DRI was completed and received first thing this morning. Understand that they do not supersede your zoning authority, nor do they make specific recommendations to approve or disapprove. They identify criteria that they would suggest be considered.
There was only one regulatory government entity with regulatory power that actually commented, and that was our own Spalding County Public Works.
All right, and did we have any issues with the DRI?
I had no issues with the comments from Public Works, and several of the comments from the advisory group Riverkeeper dealt with wetlands, which again will be dealt with at the time of the construction drawings, either protected or getting a 404 permit to do something with them. So,
Mr. Chairman, I would like, in order to advise the people who are here regarding the voting procedure, because it is a little odd, we have only 3 of you present, Commissioner Dutton is on the phone. That is permitted under OCGA 5014-1 G3. As long as we have a quorum physically present, Commissioner, which you do, Commissioner Dutton can participate by phone and vote.
And vote.
And vote.
Okay.
I would also like to make certain that you understand that this is a variance, but under the new amendments under House Bill 1405, this is considered in conjunction with the rezoning and special exception application, and it's governed by the requirements and criteria for a rezoning amendment, not the traditional variance requirements. Thank you.
All right.
Newton, if I may, Mr. Chair, I believe it was the same gentleman that was talking about the dangers of radiation from the data centers, talked about how the rules and ordinances for approval in this weren't followed as far as the other committee and whatever. Is it correct? Have we followed all our rules? Have we jotted all, crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's on this? Again, it's not fair to anyone involved if we go to litigation because somebody didn't, sign a form or we didn't do something properly. Can you advise on that? Because I'm assuming you were there for those meetings as well.
I was, Commissioner. It's my opinion that we have followed the rules under the zoning ordinance, and we have followed the rules under zoning procedures law regarding hearings. Understand, we have historically allowed requests for variances to be reviewed of most provisions of the zoning code if the developer or the property owner can satisfy you that they've met the criteria. So the presence of the variance application, which is allowed by House Bill 1405 as part of the rezoning, has been handled properly.
All right, so it's our zoning attorney's opinion that everything legally required for these variances has happened. We follow all proper procedures so far.
I do not believe we have any procedural error.
Okay.
Okay, just want to make sure.
All right. Anybody else? All right, James, have you got a motion?
So I really want to make clear what I'd like to do tonight. I think that we should add restrictions to this property. I think that we should lower what is allowed to be done there. I think that we should continue to strengthen the requirements as far as not just in general what data centers can do, but what they can do on this property. So if you'll bear with me, I wrote this down here. So in consideration of variance 2505B, I make a motion to approve the variance, but this board issues conditional approval, all right, for the S2 and S4 districts exclusions, and we do so with absolute clarity. I want this to be heard, and I want everyone in the audience and everybody at home to hear this. No member of this board, no one on the dais is receiving a single dollar, benefit, or promise of compensation from this or any other development in Spalding County, and I'm offended when people accuse that. We are here for one purpose only, to reduce the tax burden on the people of Spalding County, exactly as this community has demanded. And whether anyone chooses to believe that or not, this is the work we are doing. With that stated unequivocally, the applicant shall comply fully with the following conditions. All S2 land protection district buffers and impervious setbacks shall be physically marked, prior to any grading or construction, and the designation of a perennial stream shall be strictly defined as a year-round flowing watercourse identified on the USGS quadrangle map and as codified in the Spalding County zoning ordinance, including flow from base groundwater discharge or direct runoff. All S4 land protection district features, including every wetland area, shall be field located and protected prior to any land disturbance, and no wetland shall be altered unless the applicant first obtains all legally required approvals from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, including all necessary Section 404 or nationwide permits. Under no circumstances shall construction proceed until full compliance with these conditions is demonstrated and maintained. All that in addition to staff's conditions and the conditions that we've added tonight as far as marking and, on the maps and stuff. Okay, we have the strongest conditions on data centers, and I urge my fellow commissioners to continue to enforce and provide for the enforcement of these ordinances, so that even if these folks are coming in and paying taxes, they're not going to come in and do the things that we've seen data centers do in other counties and other districts, such as the crazy water use, the noise. All of those things need to be complied with here strictly. And I hope that you all join me in forcing the compliance through our ordinance tonight.
Long motion.
That is a long motion.
Okay, all right. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any discussion? Okay, James, since you can't see, I'm going to ask for a hand and voice vote so that you hear what's going on, and I'll try to narrate that as
Yes,
well.
doing it by roll call would be very convenient for me. Sorry, I'm out of town for work.
I'm more interested in just us voting, and I'll talk you through it. All right.
Okay.
All those in favor of James's motion on the variance, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All three of us, James said, raise our hand and said aye.
I've got my hand up and I'm saying aye.
Okay, motion carries. All right, item number 3.
Item number 3, public hearing, application 2529Z, Wallace Jackson LLC owner, 5745 and 5841 Jackson Road, parcels 216-01004 and 216-01004A, both located in land lots 25 and 40 of the Second Land District, consisting of approximately 139.63 and 50.03 acres respectively. The applicant is requesting to rezone from C2 manufacturing to C1C manufacturing light for a data center campus. Application 2517S, Wallace Jackson LLC owner, 5745 and 5841 Jackson Road, parcels 216-01004 and 216-01004A, both located in land lots 25 and 40 of the Second Land District, consisting of approximately 139.63 and 50.03 acres respectively. The applicant is seeking a special exception for a data center campus.
I would entertain a motion to, David, do you want to bring this up to date first before we do this?
Personally, I just want to reiterate, this is a combined public
Yes.
hearing for the zoning and a special exception.
Yes.
This is just I'll speak on the rezoning only just briefly. As was said before, this is a down zoning from C2 to C1C. Property has been rezoned, zone C2 for approximately 20 years. This is a down zoning to a lighter zoning. I will go into more detail after the public hearing.
Okay. Do I have a motion to go into combined public hearing?
Motion to go in public hearing.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. James? James?
Aye, I'm raising my hand.
Thank you. Motion carries. We're now in public hearing. Dr. Ledbetter?
Mr. Chair, with the board's approval, we had 3 individuals who were not able to speak on the previous variance, but if they would like to speak, I would make a recommendation that you afford them the opportunity to speak during the 20 minutes of opposition if they so choose.
Do we have anybody else who signed up to?
We do. We have a very few number who have signed up for the rezoning, but if you would so indulge, I think it would be beneficial for our community to be able to speak in this application instead of the previous, if that would be okay.
Okay.
All right.
Let's prioritize, though. I think we
right.
should have the ones who.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Jones, if you would, we will start with you for the 20-minute in favor of, and then we will move to the opposition.
Excuse me. Thank you, Dr. Ledbetter, Chair, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Stephen Jones with the law firm of McKagan Jones. My address is 1441 Dunwoody Village Parkway, Suite 100, Atlanta, Georgia 30338. This is the combined public hearing on the rezoning and special exception. We talked about this in the prior public hearing on the variance. To not belabor that point, I'll incorporate everything I said, not to re-give that presentation. I'll incorporate everything I said in that public hearing, but I'll go back through a few slides and just talk about things I think that are germane to the special exception, to the rezoning, and then the special exception. Again, this is a excerpt of your GIS zoning map, 189 acres, presently zoned C2, with a request to downzone to C1C light manufacturing. Here you can see an aerial, again, of the property, incorporating everything we said previously about this being an industrial area and the employment character area. I do think it's important again to note that this is a downzoning from C2, your most intense zoning district. It is consistent with the comp plan as staff notes in its staff report. Again, the concept plan here. I do want to talk now about the rezoning and the conditions. Planning Commission, and we'll come back to staff's recommended conditions, but one of the Planning Commission and staff's recommended conditions, consistent with this board's prior decisions on data centers, is for a buffer along all road frontages with either vegetation or fencing on top. You can see that depicted on this concept plan here in yellow. We had some discussion during the prior public hearing about the primary entrances and the secondary emergency access only, or Knox box entrances. Those are shown, the primary entrances are shown by the blue circles here. Those are close to the intersection of Wallace and Jackson Road. The secondary Knox box entrances are further out on Wallace Road and Jackson Road. You can see those secondary entrances shown with orange lines on your screen. We discussed in the prior public hearing the water consumption. Again, the applicant fully understands the law is what the law is. Spalding County is a closed loop county, full stop, and this water availability letter reflects that. We've talked about ad valorem impact. Those are variance conditions. Staff's recommended conditions in your agenda packet tonight. We support all of them. I do ask you for a few minor changes. One, the date on the concept plan. That date, and we just finished this concept plan. That's why the date hasn't changed. But that updated concept plan is the one I showed you on the screen that shows the berm and shows the secondary entrances. That's the only change. That the dated, the concept plan with the date shown in the staff's condition in your packet, and it was a recommended approval by Planning Commission, that does not have the buffering or the berming, and it does not have the secondary entrances. So I asked for that change just to make sure that the conditions reflect what we say we're going to do, because that's what we're going to do. With your other staff's recommended conditions, I'm happy to go through them. But really that the change in the date of the concept plan is the only requested revision we have. The rest of your staff's conditions ensure protections on this site, which are commensurate with necessary property-specific restrictions that complement the data center ordinance, which this board has already adopted. With that, Chair, Commissioners, I will reserve the remainder of my time to address anything that may come up from the board or in public comment. Thank you so much, as always, for your time.
Thank you, Stephen.
I believe Mr. Burns has stepped out. Is he in the hall? Mr. Burns?
Yes, oh, did you call me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg Burns. Are you going to allow was there a motion to allow the people who couldn't speak before?
That's what we had requested, and that's what the board had
Okay,
approved.
very
Yes,
good.
sir.
I'll
As
be
long as we
brief.
stay
Greg
within
Burns,
20 minutes.
5451 West McIntosh Road. I want to just address a few comments that I think came up specifically that Commissioner Dutton asked. With regards to the radiation, the issue is not what would be in the equipment itself. The issue comes from the fact that there is granite underlying much of this part of the watershed, and there's going to need to be blasting done. And it's the blasting that disturbs the granite and releases the radioactive compounds into the aquifer. I also want to address an inconsistency that's in the record about the water usage, a vast inconsistency. The DRI states, as requested, 500,000 gallons per day. And that is what the Three Rivers Council reviewed and had something to say about. And that's very different than what we just saw, 30,000. I also have a document from that Mr. Jones himself signed applying to the Spalding County Water Authority, which is available to you all. In the application itself, he's asking for 250 to 500,000 gallons per day. So what is it? I think if the commission would allow me, I would like to yield the rest of my time to Mr. Sams. Is that okay? Thank you.
So in regards to the blasting, there
Mr.
is.
Sams, if you would please state your name and
Sorry.
address for the record.
Fletcher
please.
Sams, Altamaha Riverkeeper, 127 F Street, Brunswick, Georgia. In regards to the blasting, that is a pretty big concern with any time that you're blasting, especially closer to the fall line that you get. University of Georgia and State EPD monitor radiation in wells, mainly coming from radon, but the source material is cracking granite. Some data centers have already agreed to do water sampling, namely the Forsyth data center that I was at a zoning hearing for yesterday or last week, agreed to monitor local groundwater conditions. Back to the most important things for me are clarifying that the S2 district, it's at the bottom of a funnel, right? Those S2 districts are watersheds. At the bottom of that district is a public drinking water intake, right? And the reason that you have an S2 district is to protect that intake from pollutants of concern, right? And so the reason that you have that in your ordinance to prohibit data centers from going up there is because they're going to hold a lot of fuel for those diesel generators. Now, another requirement that was supposed to be in the DRI is electric supply. What kind of generators? What kind of eminent domain are you going to have to run in power lines? Whose property are you going to take? Those are very important things. But the other thing that is extremely important is to understand that a closed loop cooling system as defined in your code would apply to every data center. That loop that touches the chips is closed, even on what we describe as an evaporative cooling system. What this applicant has put in their application, regardless of what they said here, is that they want to draw 500,000 gallons a day and only return in wastewater 30,000 gallons. Now, to clarify, the 30,000 gallons that was put on the screen by the applicant is what the county water system says that they can give to that applicant, not what the applicant is asking for. What I see with 500,000 gallons of draw and 30,000 gallons of return, that is an evaporative cooling system, not what y'all envisioned in your ordinance. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Harvey Clark.
Harvey Clark, 2211 High Falls Road, Griffin, Georgia. I stand here as a citizen of this county. I'm new here. I've been here about 6 years. I moved here to retire, to have my little farm, and just to get away from everything. I know that there are a lot of military people that live near these properties, that all these data centers and stuff that, you know, I've tried to sell my place. I can't even sell it. Nobody wants it. Developer wants to buy it for pennies. This is bad for our community. It's bad for everybody, and especially I know we have a real high suicide rate amongst our veterans. This is just going to make that go higher. Y'all are taking people's investments, their livelihoods, everything they put their homes and money in, and you're taking that away and destroying it. You're destroying our county. Please stop this. Please stop this. No amount of money is worth the death of anybody, physically, mentally, whatever. It's not worth the money. Please say no.
Thank you.
William Slaughter.
Hey, good evening. William Slaughter, 165 Slaughter Road. I'm speaking against the zoning rezoning request. And I first want to begin by saying I'm not opposed to data centers. However, I am opposed to having too many data centers. We should have 2 at the most in Spalding County. That should provide plenty enough income for us to help out with the taxes, but still be able to accommodate our residents. And they should be placed in areas that will provide the least amount of disruption for our residents. Currently, there's no transparency with this. We have no clue what our leadership, how many they plan to have in Spalding County. And all of these requests keep coming in and they keep getting passed or rezoned. And it looks like you're headed toward rezoning this one as well. So currently we have 10 High Falls Road, 115 Alicia Drive, 50 North McDonald Road. Currently those have been rezoned. That's 3 properties. Once these properties are rezoned, that's it. We're not going to be able to tell a developer or lawyer, no, you can't put it here. If you keep approving these requests and rezoning these properties, how many are we going to have? It's going to be detrimental to our community. And apparently there are other requests on the way. So, okay, so these requests should not keep getting approved as they come in hopes that one of them are actually going to be developed. This approach leaves our county vulnerable to developers and lawyers to decide how our county is going to grow. And that's irresponsible. Leadership needs to determine how many we want and more specifically where we want them in the locations within the employment corridor to reduce the negative impacts on our residents, such as and multiple people have addressed this this evening, such as the 100-acre tract where the substation is being placed in, and that's 1.5 miles into the Taulaga residential area. And Georgia Power has purchased an additional 81 acres across the road. So once again, that's 1.5 miles into a residential area. In closing, residents, we want to maintain a quality of life in Spalding County, and that includes protecting our environment, creating appealing quality developments, and maintaining significant green space. I encourage you to vote no on this, then develop a comprehensive plan for data centers that will allow our community to grow responsibly the way we want it to grow, not developers and lawyers. Please listen to your constituents on the data center issue. Thank you.
Thank you, William.
Chase.
Chase Alexandrian, 25 Rover Road. Evening, Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being here. I'm not against data centers. Believe it or not, I actually design and manage their construction for a living. It's what I do. So I kind of looked in some of the technicals. The first thing I will say is approving a rezoning application without a basis of design is like approving something blindly, right? So the scope of what a data center can be and how it's constructed and its method of liquid to chip, air cooled, liquid cooled, there's several different design variations. I understand the ordinance says it has to be a closed loop system. I will tell you that a completely closed loop system, which is in the ordinance, is not water, it is glycol. What happens with a glycol chilled system, either air or liquid cooled, since we don't have a basis of design, I can't speak to the details of the building, but there's going to be anywhere from 12 to 28,000 gallons of glycol storage tanks on the roof of each one of these buildings. That's to help with pressure balancing of the data halls, and they have to ramp up cooling depending on megawatt usage. What also sits on these roofs, the way these buildings are constructed, it's a TPO roof, and then they're going to have rain leaders that come down and are going to go into an underwater water containment system, which will eventually leach down. Do I know what happens when we build them and we pressure test them? Those tank flanges bust, and it happens quite often. So while it may not be radon or whatever it is, having glycol being leached back into the system, into the sensitive areas, is a very real threat. Second thing I'll talk about, again, other people have talked about this that are more experts on the waterways, so I'm not going to pretend to speak on those. But I also wanted to add with the generators. So the way these generators work, they're refueled by a remote refueling system. Each belly tank and each generator holds 2,000 to 3,000 gallons of fuel. It is stored above grade, not below grade. Their spill containments are nowhere near what their capacity is. So, and the way the remote fueling works, if in the event of a power outage, there's a central refueling point that fuel trucks that you see refilling a gas station, they'll come up and they're going to plug in and they're going to remote fuel each one of those generators. In the event of a loss of power and the generators crank on, they only have a run time of about 12 to 18 hours before they have to be refueled. So it requires a constant refueling. So you will have large fuel tankers on site refueling if it's required. Again, the event of a bust of a bladder or you could have the fuel. The last thing I want to point out, it's not on the conceptual. I understand that there is Georgia Power is bringing in transmission lines, but there's only an allocated amount of power for data centers, and a campus this size is going to require more than one dedicated substation. That is not shown on its development where Georgia Power plans to put those. My guess is based off the orientation and where their main transmission center is that they're developing, those substation feeders are going to be somewhere within that residential development area for the sole purpose of only feeding this campus. So again, I'm not against data centers. I was just kind of stating some facts that come with data centers and their construction. We got a whole lot of land in the southeast portion of Spalding County you don't have to worry about any of these environmental concerns. I'm sure the land was cheap, and that's why it is what it is. But I just want to point those things out. So thanks, appreciate it.
Eli, how much time?
Just under 8 minutes.
8 minutes remaining. Mike Wallace.
Mike Wallace, 371 Wallace Road. There was a rock quarry proposed in the area behind Bethel Grove Baptist CME Church, the one that's directly across the road from the data center proposition area. And the Army Corps of Engineers came out and declared on 235 Wallace Road, which is contiguous with 371, that area a wetland. Now this is on the side opposite the data center, across Wallace Road, east toward the 75. wetland is there, declared by the Army Corps of Engineers. It also runs under 75 down into the Tioga District. All these diesel and glycol, ethylene glycol is antifreeze, you know. How is that going to fit into a wetland on our property, as well as beyond on down to the intake for the entire Butts County side of the west side of Butts County? So this is, you're planting something in this data center with these recognized construction problems, leakage problems, not closed loop, open loop, open-ended. I ask you to consider not to pass it, please. I know you've already voted, but I still think there are factors that are not being taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Karen Locke.
Dr. Karen Locke, 403 Maddox Road, Griffin, Georgia. We've heard a lot about the backup generators, which are diesel, and they're talking about the water problems, but nobody's mentioned air pollution. And backup generators, which run on diesel, will release about 200 to 600 times more pollution from nitrous oxide than what natural gas does. Now, per the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers data centers, we're responsible for about $6 billion in public health damages from pollution. So nitrous oxide causes irritation in the eyes, throat, nose, respiratory infections, reduced metabolism, and for those who have poor immune systems, can result in death. So I'm wondering, how is this going to be mitigated? Can it be even? So that is something that I would like to know, what can be done about it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that's all who have signed up. I believe Stephen has 15 minutes left for rebuttal.
Mr. Jones, I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you clarify based on what was on the DRI with water numbers versus what was given to us and the commissioners, clarify the actual numbers?
Certainly. Yes. That was actually the top of my list here. Commissioners, yes, I think there was a comment regarding the water numbers in the DRI and the water numbers that were in the Spalding County Water and Sewerage Facilities Authority's letter that was on the screen and that we received, and I believe we sent numbers on to Mr. Allen today. That was not the Water Authority telling the applicant what they could use. The applicant revised its application to be commensurate with the closed loop water consumption required by your ordinance. The difference between what was reflected in the DRI and what came out of the Spalding County Water Authority's availability letter was civil engineers putting water numbers down as opposed to the experts. And frankly, that I didn't catch the discrepancy in the numbers. They should have been different. So that's on me. They got submitted to the DRI, but then after we recognized that they were not the appropriate numbers, we came back and revised the Spalding County Water and Sewerage Facilities availability letter request to reflect what is commensurate and what is consumed by a closed loop system. And that's why I said earlier that the applicant fully understands that the law is the law and that a closed loop system is what is required by the ordinance. So that was just not the right engineer putting in the right numbers. And although I'm not an engineer, I see those numbers enough, but I just was moving quickly and didn't catch that the write-in engineer didn't put the right number down.
Okay, wait a minute. So, David, do you have the numbers?
Yes, sir, and you have them printed out in front of you, and I also sent them via email. Revised water and sewer numbers are as follows, and again, this is after you consulted with the Water Authority. Estimated average daily flow for water, gallons per day, 30,000. Max hourly GPM, 42. Peak gallons per day, 60,000. Sewer, sanitary sewer, established average daily flow, gallons per day, 12,000. Max hourly GPM, 25. And peak gallons per day, sewer, 36,000.
And if I may, Chairman, those numbers are the equivalent of approximately 150 single-family residential structures.
Okay. David, does this accomplish what we want? We don't want water coming out from them.
No, sir, with a closed loop, and we will, if you want to, in the approval conditions, make triple sure with the definition of closed loop system as defined will not withdraw water from the streams on the property. It will have to be confined in that system.
How about that comment about rainwater from the roof down to tanks? Wasn't there a comment? Did I hear that right? Okay.
It may have been glycol on top of on the roofs and tanks, a cooling thing, glycol stored on top of the roofs.
All right. We don't see anything where they're catching rainwater and putting it into tanks.
No.
Okay. Okay.
And Commissioner, then there was some comments about pollution. Your data center ordinance addresses the levels of generators required. I believe it's a level 4F, if that's correct, which is the most stringent environment, I guess is the most environmentally friendly generator under EPD regulations. And so I understand that is a concern, and yes, that's a valid concern, but as with most things, your ordinance has addressed those concerns already.
Okay. All right. David, did we hear anything from anybody else that we have not taken care of?
You're still in public hearing.
Okay, excuse me. I'm still in public hearing. I just wanted to make sure in case we needed to bring somebody back up.
I don't believe so. The basics are the buffers, the water availability, electrical availability. I think all those have been addressed. As we all know, Georgia Power is doing the large substation out there close by. That will be a source of power for it.
Okay.
Mr. Jones, are you finished with your comments?
I am, but Board, if you have any concerns or questions that I may answer prior to the close of public comment, I'd be happy to do that at this time.
Or we could come out of public comment.
James, let's get them out of public comment and get into, all right, do I have a motion?
Motion come out of public hearing.
All right, motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Or say aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're out of public hearing. David, let's start with you on these two.
Okay. Very simply put, I'm going to just address rezoning. Since we're only talking about the rezoning right now, you would have to vote separately on a special exception. As stated before, this is a down zoning from the most intense zoning we have, C2, to a less intense C1C for light industrial. This has been zoned industrial for 20 years. This has not been converted. Okay. Not been converted farmland. This has been zoned this way for 20 years. This is in the employment corridor we've often talked about with other cases on our comp plan and future land use map. One of the uses approved for the employment corridor in this area is light industrial, which is exactly what this is. So this is in line with our comp plan and our flume map. The approval conditions are very similar to other approval conditions on the past projects in terms of the berms and things of that nature. So those are in there as well. The only thing you might want to consider adding as a condition is to double, triple clarify the definition of closed loop is not allowing the withdrawal of water from local water sources on the property.
Yeah, I think we want to do that.
We've actually got that in the base data center restrictions. That it all has to come from municipal sources, all of it.
Okay.
That's all I have on the rezoning.
Okay. comments from the, James, have you got something that will start with you?
Yes, Mr. Jones, if you come back up, I have a question. There was something posted, because I've engaged quite a bit on Facebook about this, getting both public comments, privately there, just, between my friends and people that interact with me personally in my personal life there on Facebook. But one of the articles that was linked, and it was brought up tonight, is I couldn't find any actual underlying research behind it or anything that seemed, and I'm not one that would think that if the mainstream media doesn't say it, it's not true. I'm definitely in the opposite camp of that. But in fact, most of what they say is bullcrap. But that said, I couldn't find any scientific facts about this NO2. That's nitrous oxide, or it was commonly called laughing gas. That's the stuff that you get given when you go get your wisdom teeth out. It's made by oxygenating ammonia, which is usually done to create fertilizer. Will there be any ammonia or any kind of power generation via ammonia or some other system other than just a diesel generator? Because diesel generators don't generate nitrous oxide. They generate CO2, but not NO2. So CO2, does what we all know it does, but NO2 in large quantities can have a lot of other environmental factors. We heard from a citizen tonight about that, but it has to be made via the oxidation of ammonia, not the burning of diesel fuel. Can you speak to that? Is there? What kind of generators are we using? Are they just diesel generators?
Commissioner, this is the first time I've heard laughing gas and data center in the same sentence, and that's news to me. My understanding is that on-site generation is via, your diesel or like a natural gas generator, right? Consistent with what your data center ordinance requires. So, short answer, Commissioner, no. To my knowledge, I've never heard of power production via ammonia or any sort of CO2 byproducts being created from facilities like these.
Okay, so it's the backup generators. These backup generators are just that. They only come on if power fails, and they're required to test them once a month. And if power fails, that means the giant transmission wires came down, and then we got bigger problems than, the sound coming off the generator. We're in the apocalypse at that moment. But the generators are just the same kind of stuff that gets made by Caterpillar that burns fossil fuels and creates heat energy, electricity, and CO2, right?
Yes, sir. That's my understanding.
Okay. Now, we do still require in the base data center ordinance the acoustic walls around it. Actually, speaking with one of the North American directors for a company called HESCO, they do sound dampening. I was speaking with them yesterday about the ways to mitigate sound, and we actually spoke about mitigating sound around data centers. There's not that I know of, and there might be, for someone who's an expert, there's not an R value type scale for sound dampening. I think, R value being the thickness of like insulation, how much heat can transfer. But that might be something that we look into, David looks into. I was like, hey, this is the level of sound dampening. If there's some sort of scale, like we've done with our building code in increasing the amount of required insulation and window thickness, that kind of stuff. But it is still in there to have the sound dampening walls around that generator, even though it's only going to kick on once a month during the day.
Yes, Commissioner, that is in your base data center ordinance. Additionally, the base data center ordinance states that if, as a result of the required acoustical study, there may also be required sound dampening on the main buildings themselves.
Right. Let's see. I'm sorry. I was taking some notes here again from the public comments. One of our base data center ordinance requirements also is that the transmission of power be already available. That there's already transmission lines, there either on the property or on the adjacent properties, so that what happened in Fayette County, where they had the eminent domain of a bunch of people's backyards to run transmission lines, doesn't happen in Spalding County. That's the situation that this property is in already, correct?
Commissioner, that's the position this property will be in conjunction with that substation, which was referenced earlier tonight. Georgia Power is going to install transmission lines along the frontage of this property, and those are the transmission lines that will be used to serve this property. So
it's not going to tie into the transmission lines that feed the two industrial areas next to it or across 16 from it. It's going to get its own transmission lines?
No, Commissioner, there was already a transmission system expansion planned, and we are just locating next to an already planned expansion.
I see. So Georgia Transmission had already come in and said, we're expanding power access this way, and then this developer came in and said, hey, since this is coming in, we'll build there. This might be more a question for Mr. Allen, is there a way to ensure that, I guess it's going to happen automatically that the power lines are there before the building finishes. You know what I mean? Otherwise, won't be able to turn the lights on. So maybe there's no reason to require that. But just thinking that through.
Yeah, all those pre-connections will have to be made for the building to finish.
Hold it, James, just a second. David, go ahead.
All those pre-connections would have to be made for the buildings are finished.
Okay, so before the certificate of occupancy can be given, like they could build and they would just have to wait for the issuance of the certificate of occupancy on the power being hooked up. Okay, right. Sorry, I had to think that through and make sure that we're checking all the boxes here.
And James, just so everybody knows, we don't have any say-so about what Georgia Power
Right, what Georgia
doing. Transmission
does is up to Georgia Transmission. We cannot affect Georgia Transmission. As much as we at the Airport Authority have tried, that is not something that we can do.
All right, go ahead, James.
Let me take a look here. Sorry, I'm just going back through my ideas. Mr. Jones, is there a way to have the developer place the generators along the rear of the property to 75? I know that other times, like the first data center that came in, we said, hey, I know that your plan is to put the generator here, but can you put it on this side so that it's on the airport's side, the new jet airport's side, so that it's going to make, all the noise is going to be opposite the building from anyone else. Is there something like that here?
Commissioner, I believe the generators need to be located next to the structure that they are serving. So I don't think we could isolate them in one area. And isolating them in the rear of the property would place them closer to residential properties. But if your concern is them being on the periphery, I think that, we can make a commitment to try to place them in more interior to the site than exterior.
Yeah, just have them be on the side of the buildings opposite the nearest residential properties. You know what I'm saying? So that the building itself, the warehouse, like the actual building of the data center, is between the generator and the direction we don't want the sound to go, which is towards the residents. Does that make sense?
Commissioner, I'm just the attorney. I don't have authority to consent to that condition, but if that is a condition that you wish to impose, I would just ask that it be clearly worded that as to where that location is, so we don't get sideways or confused during construction.
No, I agree. And as much as you word it as we don't get sideways or confused, I would word it as so that no one later can try to weasel out of it. So if anybody else has some specific wording they'd like to be used there, Mr. Allen, Dr. Ledbetter, maybe we jot that down so that we can add that to conditions. Because again, we're just trying to check every single conceivable box so that the mistakes that have been made with data centers elsewhere are not allowed to happen in this county. You know, the in and obeying people's backyards, the wild use of water, run people's wells dry. We're not going to allow that to happen in Spalding County. That's not on my watch. That's never going to happen.
Okay, hold it, James, just a second. James, just a second. David, have you got that, what he's trying to get us to do?
Yeah, I would just say, to locate generators as much in the interior as
We want to
feasibly
use the buildings as
possible.
a buffer. If we put it in here, the buffer, the building, they go against each other. And if they have a place where it would be like a quadrangle, it would be ideal. That way it would be buffered all the way around. But if not, then at least have it so that it's on the opposite side from where residents are.
And now, of course, this doesn't relieve them of the requirement of the acoustic barrier around it. But again, the more the merrier. You know, we really want this to be as internal as possible.
Matt, some of the buildings sit perpendicular to the roadway, so if it was on the opposite side, that would isolate on the small side of the rectangle. If we could say, not on the side contiguous with a residentially zoned property, that would I think fit more with the concept plan.
I can see that because again, we still have the acoustic walls
You
that are
can
going
work
up.
that wording out. When David's satisfied with it, we'll be okay with it.
That's fine.
Yeah.
The specific wording. The idea is what we want. Okay, go ahead, James.
There was another one. Someone came up and said, these kind of things should be located in the southeast of Spalding County, or the west, where it's not gonna. And the whole point of locating them where they're locating in general terms is this is the industrial and employment corridor for the county, and has been so designated since the 70s. This is why the state built us a 4-lane divided highway with access roads. This is the industrial corridor. That's the whole point. So of all the places in the county where there's room for it to go, our ordinance specifically limits it to go here. This is our industrial and employment corridor. So that's why all the ones that are coming are along this. So I don't think that should be shocking to folks that industry is coming to build in our industrial and employment corridor. Let's see. And maybe I know Mr. Jones has repeatedly agreed that, and I've repeatedly harped on it, that this is a closed loop system, this is a closed loop system, this is a closed loop system. But maybe we put in there specifically, closed loop system and evaporative cooling is not allowed. This is not, we're not here to, have evaporation towers. This is a closed loop system. And again, we're hearing from the developer that they're not going to use one. So there shouldn't be a problem saying you can't have one, because what they're telling us is we don't want one. Great. Let's write that down.
Okay, David's writing, I believe. Okay, he's got it. Go ahead.
I think that's let's see. There's one more thing, and we've run into this once before there on South McDonough. We required a planted buffer of trees on top of the berm. And so the builder, in trying to comply with that, bulldozed all the trees, which they're then going to later replant. And had they just left that little strip of woods, it would have been a better buffer than a replanted buffer. So I'm just looking at this, that, we have a landscaping, that we create a landscaping plan with, sorry, someone's just walking in here. that we create a landscaping plan, you know, with the approval of the community development director. You know what I'm saying? So that if we need a planted barrier where there's not currently trees, then we'll put a planted barrier. If there's a way to leave the natural trees as much as possible, so that the existing forest can stay as much as possible. You know, when we spoke to the developer there at 16 and South McDonough, we said, "Oh, you cut down all these trees," and they said, "Yeah, we're required to build a planted barrier, so we had to cut down the existing trees." And that wasn't our intent. That's something that's totally on us that we did just because we didn't word it correctly. So again, that was a learning opportunity for us to say, hey, maybe we word this as planted and natural barriers, you know, as you know, shall receive approval from the community development director before any construction begins. You know, the idea being like, hey, let's create a plan here. You know.
Approval condition 4 covers that, talking about a tree protection plan.
I didn't hear that, Alan.
He said condition 4 covers that.
Okay, great. As long as we got those box checks.
Okay.
The other one is about the sidewalk plans. Obviously, DOT is not going to let us build sidewalks along 16 for very good reasons. That'd be ridiculous to have sidewalks along a divided highway. But my concern is sidewalks along Jackson and Wallace, if that requires less of a planted barrier. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, it's a planted barrier plus I'd rather have 10 more feet of sidewalk, 10 more feet of, you know, woods and barrier than a sidewalk that no one's gonna conceivably use for the next 50 years.
The sidewalk would be in the right of way. The planted buffer will be in the actual property.
Okay. So the sidewalk, so the buffer doesn't count the sidewalks. It'll be in addition to.
Right.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. I'm just going over these. Again, I've written down what, you know, seems very restrictive to me, and I just want to make sure that we're checking all these boxes in a way that is deliberate and don't think it's the wrong way, Mr. Jones, but as restrictive as possible so that we don't get the mistakes from data centers that we've seen elsewhere. You know, again, we're moving this from unrestricted C2 heavy manufacturing to, you know, commercial with a bunch of extra restrictions. You know, to me, we should jump on that chance to go from heavy industrial to as restricted as, you know, anywhere in the state, less industrial. So I just want to make sure that we're putting on all the restrictions that could be possibly needed to make sure that this site doesn't affect our water, doesn't affect our citizens negatively. You know, obviously we can't tell them to use less power, but anything else that we can say, hey, we don't want you to create a problem in this direction, in this dimension, we need to put on paper now. So if there's anything else anybody's got, in addition to the, you know, years worth of research that we've done, like, now's the chance to add those.
Okay. Now, there's no revision restrictions clauses in here, right?
Reversion, no, sir, because you're down zoning, so it would not make sense if this had not happened to revert it back to a more intense zoning.
I didn't want to go back and come back again and do that. All right. All right. James, anything else?
No, I'm ready for my motion.
All right. Anything else from you? Nope. Okay. Okay. Just give 1 second. Sorry. Okay.
Mr. Chair, do you have anything left of their 20 minutes?
We're out of public.
We're out of public comment.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, number 4 on the agenda this evening is application 2529Z, Wallace Jackson LLC owner, 5745 and 5841 Jackson Road. Parcels 216-01004 and 216-01004A, both located in land lots 25 and 40 of the Second Land District, consisting of approximately 139.63 acres. 139.63 and 50.03 acres respectively. The applicant is requesting to rezone from C2 manufacturing to C1C manufacturing light for a data center campus.
All right. Do I have a motion, James?
All right. I'll make the motion again. We've been the ones doing the homework on how to make this as restrictive as possible. So let's see. I move that we approve the application 2529Z, rezoning the subject property from C2 heavy industrial to C1C, with the explicit understanding that data centers shall not be permitted without obtaining a separate special exception as required under the recently adopted provisions of the Spalding County Zoning Code. The applicant and all successors in title shall comply fully, completely, and without exception with the following mandatory conditions which shall govern the development of this property. 1, the data center campus shall be developed in strict conformity with the zoning site plan dated October 6th, 2025, prepared by Falcon Design Consultants, attached is Exhibit A. All buildings, drives, entrances, sidewalks, berms, and improvements shown or required shall be constructed exactly as prescribed, except as denoted tonight, removing the location of the generators so that they're not on the side of any residential facing residential property. 2, all development and construction shall comply with UDO section 1403A-B8, including architectural and decommissioning requirements. Tilt-up masonry wall shall be recognized as masonry facade, and masonry construction shall mean concrete, brick, stone, concrete panels, tilt-up concrete, or insulated concrete panels. 3, all buffering and landscaping requirements shall be followed without deviation, including compliance with the UDO section 1403A-B8 and Appendix K. Perimeter landscape berms and entrance plantings shall be included, and final landscape plans shall receive approval from the community development director before any construction begins. That's specifically so that we don't have that issue that we're bulldozing trees so we can plant other, that we do this in a smart way. Number 4, a tree protection plan shall be submitted and approved by the community development director prior to any clearing of the site. So again, if we can save the trees and save the habitats as much as possible, we should try to do that, and we need to make a plan before we start cutting down trees. 5, paving along the Wallace Road frontages shall be upgraded to county, quote, super paving specifications from the data center entrance to the intersection of Wallace Road and Jackson Road. Now, it's my understanding that that's already been done from the Dollar General south, but this should make sure that that's all uniform and up to the super paving standards that we've set.
Yes, sir, but don't take that away. Continue that, because the construction traffic will impede and create some challenges.
That's right. So, and that's exactly what I'm saying, is that even though that has already been done once, we've got to check it at the end, just like we've done on South McDonough. They really messed that road up, and then now that their main construction's done, they've redone it, and it's nice again. And that's what I expect here too, not just to what the Dollar General already did, but all the way to AKB, as needed. Let's see. 6, Wallace Road north of the data center shall not be used for data center vehicles under any circumstances. Number 7, the area between the stream buffer and the eastern property line, as shown on the concept plan, shall remain undisturbed and natural to the maximum possible extent, except where minor encroachments are required for lawful development. Again, the EPD regulates this before they can touch a piece of dirt. They've got to be okay with it. The Army Corps of Engineers has got to be okay with it. All of that has to be checked. We'll get into that in a second. Number 8, the area between the stream buffer and the northern property line, as shown on the concept plan, shall also remain undisturbed and natural to the maximum possible extent, subject only to necessary encroachments in strict accordance with approved plans. Everybody good?
So far.
Number 9, a minimum of the 50-foot wide undisturbed buffer shall be provided along Jackson Road and Wallace Road. Existing trees shall be preserved to the extent feasible, and the front 10 shall include a 4-foot high berm with evergreen, so not just cedars or pines, but also, I like to point out, magnolias that stay evergreen and look pretty. 6 feet tall. Actually, I'm gonna say 8 feet tall at time of planting, or an opaque fence. Entrances and utilities may cross this buffer, but all vegetation requirements shall be enforced as determined by the community development director. Number 10, 5-foot wide concrete sidewalks shall be installed along both road frontages and shall be completed prior to the issuance of certificates of occupancy. I think I already said that one. Number 11, all development of regional impact DRI requirements shall be fully implemented without delay or exception. All of that, in addition to staff's conditions and the conditions that are already in place for all data centers in Spalding County.
And the issue
Yes.
about non-evaporated.
Yes.
Okay.
And non-evaporative and evaporative cooling systems are not allowed. Strict compliance to closed loop systems is required. Closed loop cooling systems is required.
And just one point of clarification, Commissioner, the site plan date now is today, not October 6th, due to the fact he added a Knox box and a couple other things to the plan.
That's right. That's right. Okay. I can amend my motion to what we're seeing here then.
Okay.
Because we've added a Knox box and then we changed the
January 12th.
location.
Okay. We have a motion.
And I second with all that Commissioner Dutton said.
All right.
Thanks for letting me do all the hard work, guys. That's,
You're in Vegas. We get to, yeah. All right. Then any other discussion? All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Aye. I'm saying aye.
Okay. All right. That takes care of.
Number 4, I'll read number 5 into the record, Mr. Chair. Application 2517S, Wallace Jackson LLC owner, 5745 and 5841 Jackson Road, parcels 216-01004 and 216-01004A, both located in land lots 25 and 40 of the Second Land District, consisting of approximately 139.63 and 50.03 acres respectively. The applicant is seeking a special exception for a data center campus.
Mr. Allen, anything from you?
So simply put, it meets all the special exception requirements outlined in our data center ordinance, and that is, the variance has been approved tonight. That is no longer an issue. This will have the exact same approval conditions that we just heard about the rezoning. So they will be exactly the same when you get the second reading ordinance in a couple of weeks, whenever it is. So the approval conditions will be exactly the same.
All right. So same motion as we had on the last one, correct?
Yes. That's.
I can read it into the, if you'd like, so we can make sure we got it.
Okay. Go, James.
And again, what the intent here is to move it from unrestricted heavy industrial, build anything you want, to C1C with the highest restrictions in the state. That's the intent. We are putting the brakes on what they're currently allowed to do and limiting it and making this as environmental friendly as we possibly can, which is currently not required. They don't have to do that currently. So here's my motion. I move to the board approve application 2517S, granting the special exception to the data center. This approval shall be governed absolutely and without negotiation by the following mandatory conditions. These conditions shall control all present and future development of the subject property, and every applicant, successor, and assignee shall obey them fully and without deviation. 1, the data center campus shall be constructed in strict and unwavering compliance with the zoning site plan that we've seen tonight. So it's essentially the site plan dated October 6th by Falcon Design, except with the additional knock boxes and the moving of the generators as we've requested tonight. Every building, driveway, entrance, sidewalk, berm, and improvement shall be executed exactly as shown or as otherwise required by Spalding County. 2, all development shall comply with the requirements of the UDO section 1403A B8, including all architectural and decommissioning mandates. That was something that was brought up. Tilt-up masonry wall shall be accepted as masonry facade. Masonry construction shall consist solely of precast or on-site concrete, brick, stone, concrete panels, tilt-up concrete, or insulated concrete panels. Number 3, buffering and landscaping requirements shall be met in full, including those of UDO Section 1403A, B8, and Appendix K. Perimeter berms and entrance plantings shall be installed, and final landscape plans shall be submitted and approved by the Community Development Director before any construction or land disturbance occurs. Again, I'm partial to magnolias, but number 4. A comprehensive tree protection plan shall be required and shall receive approval from the Community Service Director prior to any clearing of the site. 5, the Wallace Road frontage shall be improved to county super paving standards, UDO Appendix A, Section 502Q, from the data center entrance to Jackson Road intersection. Wallace Road North, the data center entrance shall not be used by any data center vehicles at any time for any purpose. 7, the area between the stream buffer and the eastern property boundary shall remain undisturbed and natural to the maximum possible extent, except where minimal disturbances necessary to lawfully implement the concept plan or other permitted development. 8, the area between the stream buffer and the northern property boundary shall likewise remain preserved and undisturbed, except where lawful construction requires minimal encroachment consistent with the approved plans. 9, a minimum of 50-foot wide undisturbed buffer shall be maintained along Jackson Road and Wallace Road. Existing trees shall be preserved to the fullest possible extent, and the front 10 feet shall include a 4-foot high berm with evergreen plantings 8 foot tall at the time of planting, or an opaque fence. Entrances, sidewalks, driveways, and utilities may cross the buffer, but all vegetation and planting requirements shall be enforced as determined by the Community Development Director. 10, 5-foot wide concrete sidewalks shall be installed along the entrance of Jackson Road and Wallace Road frontages, and such frontages shall be fully completed prior to the issuance of any certificates of occupancy. 11, all development of regional impact, DRI requirements shall be implemented completely, promptly, and without exception. This all in addition to staff's conditions, and the general conditions of data centers as per the rules of Spalding County.
Just a second, all right, David,
Does that
did we have
include the
something from the last one?
non-evaporative system? That includes the non-evaporative system?
Yeah, the non-evaporative?
Yes.
Yes. All right, is there
Yes.
anything else that we?
Add that language, the non-evaporative, not allowed.
No, they will be identical to the rezoning, so
Okay.
encompass
Thank
all
you.
that.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All right.
Guys, I think that the intent here is to, once again, limit what can happen on this property. Right now, it's unlimited heavy industrial. They could put a thermal borehole in if they wanted. We have to limit that and hold it to the standards. I hope you guys will join me in holding them to these incredibly high standards, the highest in the state.
We agree. All right. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay. Motion carries. Item number 6.
Mr. Chairman, item number 6, public hearing, adoption of official zoning map, update of Spalding County per Appendix 4 zoning, Article 23, Section 2302.
I would entertain a motion to open this public hearing for the purpose of hearing from those who have signed the petition to speak in support or in opposition to item 20 minutes per side.
So moved.
Did anybody sign up?
You have a motion.
I'll second. I have a motion and I have a second. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All right.
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, we're in public hearing.
Yes, sir. Mr. Stephen Paul Huss.
Stefan Paul Huss, 245 Cotton Mill Court, Fayetteville, Georgia, 30215. So the first thing I'd like to do is get out that there's 2 lawsuits pending between me and people in Spalding County. One's with Gwendolyn Flowers, the commissioner, who's not here tonight, and the other is directly with Spalding County in relation to my property at 5 Whitten in direct relation to Article 23. So I want to understand why Article 23 at this time is being updated when it hasn't been updated since July 23rd, 2020. If you read Article 23B, it states that any alteration of the official map is an amendment to the ordinance. The procedure by which the amendments are proposed and approved is set forth in Section 414. Any amendment involving a change of a zoning district must be entered on the official map as soon as the amendment has been approved by the Board of Commissioners. It's got to be signed and dated. Now, last year, I purchased the property. I did take photos of the map. David and I have had discussions. I've been in front of this board. I've been in front of the committee before this board. The last time I was here, Commissioner Dutton wanted to say something, and the attorney shut him down, said we're not going to discuss Article 23 at that time. I hope tonight that there'll be a discussion about Article 23. Because if any alteration is to be proposed on that map, and if we go back to the Georgia State Code, and you go to Spalding, and you look at the definition of what an alteration is an overlay an alteration? Well, an overlay proposes a restriction on whether it's a building, whether it's the height, the type of material, the land use, which is what I've been going through for almost a year now. So if that wasn't placed on that map, signed and sealed by the commission and the county manager, then why, one, am I told, sue the county directly? You may as well hire an attorney and start suing us after I send in a set of drawings. And then when I do send in a set of drawings earlier last year, it gets lost for 6 months. We have multiple email exchanges over that little 2.3 piece of property, 2.3 acres. And then all of a sudden I'm told, well, you never submitted it. Yet we've been discussing it for months and months. So I want to know, is the overlay an amendment? And if it is an amendment, then is it an alteration? Or is it just an alteration? Does it need to be shown on the official map upstairs? You all redid the map sometime late in the year, and you signed and sealed the map March 27th of 2025. As a matter of fact, it's on page 320 of the agenda if you want to pull it up. You'll see the signatures are there. Yet I did multiple FOIAs earlier in the year, and that map with that signed and sealed name, those signed and sealed names and date were not provided to me. What was being discussed was the official map that was on the wall that I've been taking photos of. Now, sometime during the year, but not in early 2025, that map got changed with a date of March 27th. So my photos that I have are post March 27th. So for some reason, we have a map that's dated 2020 on the wall. I take photos of it in June, and then all of a sudden, in August or September or October, whenever it happened, I don't know, all of a sudden there's a map dated 3/27. I don't know how that can possibly happen. So that's basically all I want to say is, one, are you going to actually debate it or just shut it down like you done to me last time? So that's it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, that's all who have signed up for this, this public hearing.
All right, I have a motion and a second to come out of closed hearing. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye and holding your hand up.
Aye. Aye.
But we're out of closed session.
Mr. Chair, I'll read number 7 into the record. Adoption of the official zoning map update of Spalding County per Appendix 4, zoning Article 23, Section 2302.
All right, Director?
So this map before you tonight is I've been here almost a year and a half. This is the second update. The code calls for it to be updated periodically and approved by the board and signed by the chairman. He is right. The March 27th one, 2025 was the first time in my tenure that it had been done. I can't speak to why it had not been done several years before that. Not sure. Anyway, the one from March 27, 2025 not only brought up to date what happened in early 2025, but also everything that happened with the city of Sunnyside and a bunch of other rezonings from 2024 that were not on the map yet officially. So that brought everything up to date to that point. Now, this map before you tonight brings everything up to date that occurred in 2025. Probably in the summertime, we will do another map update before this board to everything that happens in early 2026 to bring it up to speed. And then likewise, another map update into 2026. So we are starting to periodically re-update the map again as we should, as the code calls for. So that I can't speak to why that wasn't done before, but it's being done now. As to the whether or not overlays should be on there, I want to bring to your attention two definitions. Number one, the definition of the official map says the map entitled Official Zoning Map of Spalding County, Georgia, indicating the locations of zoning district boundaries in Spalding County. Then you have a definition of zoning district. One or more sections of Spalding County, Georgia as delineated and designated on the official map within which the zoning regulations are uniform, i.e. the colored legend you have there showing each individual zoning district. An overlay by this definition is not a zoning district because an overlay is like an umbrella over many properties with many different zonings. Therefore, the zoning regulations are not uniform, therefore it's not a zoning district, therefore overlays do not have to be on this official map.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? James?
Yeah, it is. So obviously I don't want to talk about any kind of pending lawsuit, here publicly. That's sort of an executive session issue. But Mr. Allen talked on it a little bit. If updating the map is an ordinance change, we need to be more proactive. I know that for the last, 6 months or so, we've been doing this the correct way, but we need to continue to keep that trend up so that the changing in the map is commensurate with the state law. And that's really all I need to say here. We need to follow the law. Period.
We agree. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
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 All right, motion carries.
Mr. Chair, item number 8, public hearing, adoption of urban proximity overlay map of Spalding County per Appendix 4, zoning Article 4, Section 413.
Do I have a motion to go into public hearing? Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're now in public hearing. Anybody?
Mr. Chair, no one has signed up for this public hearing.
Motion to come out of public hearing.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, number 9, adoption of urban proximity overlay map of Spalding County per Appendix 4, zoning Article 4, Section 413.
David?
Yes, sir. So this is another map that's designated in the code. It needs to be updated from time to time. There is supposedly one that was adopted, I believe, in 2010. Have not been able to locate a copy of that, so we have done a improved graphically designated map here as an abundance of precaution. This one will be signed and approved. That little bit, the yellow up at the top near Sunnyside, will be deleted on the map you receive for the second reading in February. So that part will be out because Sunnyside's no longer incorporated. So the yellow parts around the dark gray Griffin area will still be part of it, but that Sunnyside part will not. But that,
All right.
when you actually sign the map in February, that'll be updated. So.
All right, I understand that we wanted to have the urban proximity should include all portions surrounding the city of Griffin. Is that true? That's what we want.
Right now, it coincides exactly with the urban proximity on the future land use map in the comp plan. You can certainly do that. I was advocating to change that when we update the future land use map in about a year and a half. But that's up to the board.
I want us to do it now. I want it to, urban proximity, our concept is around the city of Griffin. Is that?
I agree.
Okay. All right, so.
Are you, Mr. Chairman, you're saying that you want the map amended to reflect urban proximity around each of the borders of the city? Or the boundary of the city?
Yes.
Okay, now understand, urban proximity presumes that the city's density of development for residential development can carry forward into the county.
Yes.
Are you following me on this? So when you convey it, when you add these other areas, like for example, around the country club, on the northwest side, you are saying that that property can be developed with greater residential density than what is in the city and allowed in the country club area. So I would be a little more cautious before we just make a motion to do that. It is possible that there are areas that are appropriate for urban proximity that are not shown on the map. But it may also be possible that there are areas, particularly on the west side of the city, where it might not be appropriate. So if you want to see what that looks like.
No, that's a good point.
I would recommend that you have David come back and you take a look at the comparative densities between in the city and where it would be located.
That's a good point.
In the county.
Okay. Any comment from any of the commissioners?
I didn't mean to stop a moving
No.
freight train.
Newton makes a good point.
There's not the rush on this as there is with the zoning map, so you could table it if you wanted.
My issue is annexation. Let's make sure what the issue is. And I'm trying to get to the point.
Correct. Oh, absolutely.
I understand.
So I'm willing to table this and you come back to us at the next meeting. But the annexation issue is a big issue and maybe there is places that we don't want to do it, but I believe we want to ring the city.
Well, let me propose this then. Adopt the map that David has presented for now and ask him to identify on a future enactment areas that might be appropriate as well that are not shown in yellow on the map.
Okay.
That way we get the new map approved. That way we get that available for somebody who wants to develop, and then we can go forward with changes or additions to it, giving him direction to come back.
Okay, I don't mind, let's make sure, I don't mind getting it approved tonight, and then saying, in the next month or two, I want a new map. I don't want it to be in the July timeframe or August or next November timeframe. So I want to try to do, I'll approve tonight what we've got, and then come back to us in a short period of time, a couple of months, on these are where the rest of the place should be. Okay? All right, we're all square with that? Any other all right, do I have, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
And I have second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second.
Is this something, could we outline certain borders of the county too, where other municipalities are like foaming at the mouth to come over?
You could use this around Orchard Hill, but that's the only other commissioner municipality that you've
So you
got.
wouldn't wanna you couldn't use it like on the north side to
Nope.
block like Hampton coming
Hampton.
over, or on the west side keeping Sonoya from coming over?
Well, Sonoya is still a pretty good distance from you. Let David look at Hampton. Hampton would be the only one in Orchard
Look at both
Hill.
of those and we'll come back and talk about it because that's a great idea. I hadn't even thought about it. Way to go, Ryan. All right. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
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 Thank you. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, number 10, public hearing adoption of official S2 District Spalding County Watershed Protection Map, update of Spalding County per Appendix 4, zoning Article 21, Section 2110.
Do I have a motion to open public hearing?
So moved.
All right, and a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
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 We're now in public hearing. Did anybody come in?
No, sir, no one has signed up for this public hearing.
Come out of public hearing.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to come out of public hearing. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
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 All right.
Mr. Chair, item number 11, adoption of official S2 District Spalding County Watershed Protection Map, update of Spalding County per Appendix 4, zoning Article 21, Section 2110.
Director?
So this is the map we've been discussing at length tonight. It used to look like this, what I affectionately call the big brown blob. There's a lot of different watersheds you can see there with the color coding, so the map is very greatly updated. Let me reiterate, none of the boundaries of the watershed change. It's just the graphics were vastly improved to make it a whole lot more usable map. So I'm presenting the update of this map to you, and like I said, no boundaries of watersheds have changed.
And your recommendation?
Approval.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, under other business this evening, the second reading and ordinance for application 2528Z, Jack Gilbert, Sarah Gilbert et al., owners, rear portion of 1075 Amelia Road, parcel 200010004, located in land lot 148 of the Second Land District, consisting of 50 acres. The applicant is requesting to rezone from R2 Single Family Residential to VN Village Node for an extension of an approved master plan community.
No public hearing is required because it was held on December 15th. Director, have you got an update since the last meeting?
No, sir. This was approved on December 15th, as you said, the first reading of the rezoning for this. This is an extension of the North Toalaga Village residential subdivision. Has the exact same approval conditions as that one, as listed in this document here, which, if approved, I will get you to sign after the meeting.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please. James, did you say something?
No, I was saying I don't have anything.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye. Okay, I want to make a comment to everybody about bad weather is coming. Please get your plan ready. This is going to be bad, we believe. It's always a crapshoot, but we believe this is going to be bad. So please take appropriate actions. If you're needing something, please let us know. At this time, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye.
All right.
We're adjourned.